Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is another Roma Press live stream. I know it's been a long time coming. The moment never seemed right because, as we know, in the summer, there is so many rumors. You don't know who to trust, who to read, who to look out for. You don't know which names are relevant, which names will stick to the wall. There is a lot of stuff flying around the internet. It's very easy to get misled. News get overturned every 30 minutes or so. I'm the first one to know this because I have to write it for Roma Press. So, hello guys, this is Andy Mattioli from Roma Press. Thank you for being here with me for this live stream. I know it's been a while since the last time came out, but as I said, it always feels difficult to give an accurate picture of what's going on in the early stages of the transfer window. We are now 25 days into July, which means that the transfer window is almost halfway through. The season is less than a month away, with Roma playing on the 18th of August. So there is going to be a lot of news popping up from day to day, from hour to hour, from minute to minute, as we've been seeing over these last 24 hours. That's why I wanted to come on here today, because it seems like a number of deals are about to happen. It seems like Roma have finally put their foot on the gas pedal, and they're going all in on several relatively big names for a club like Roma, given the season that Roma are coming off. But first of all, I wanted to welcome everybody here. I will be reading, obviously, as always, the comments. I wanted to mention already some of the people that commented on here, like Gisberto, one of our good friends. I'm good, Gisberto. Thank you for tuning in. So wanted to say to Jay Macklin, morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever you are in the world. I truly appreciate the fact that people take the time to tune in. It's the 25th of July where I'm recording. It's past 6 o'clock in the afternoon, but I know we have viewers and readers from all over the world. So hello, everybody. We are here today to talk transfers, and we are here to focus on a couple of names such as Matthias Soulé of Juventus. Obviously, that is the big one right now. There is also Samuel Dahl, a prospect from Sweden who will be coming in soon, predicted to come to Roma tomorrow after playing in the Conference League preliminaries. Not preliminaries, but qualifiers with Djurgårdens tonight. So tomorrow he's expected to be in Italy to undergo his Roma medical. And then there is obviously talk about Dovbyk from Girona. There is obviously the threat of Atletico Madrid, who are in advanced talks with the Ukrainian strikers camp, or entourage. I know a lot of you love that word, so there it is. I wanted to give a shout out to, we have Michael from Kuala Lumpur. It's been a while, Michael. Thank you for joining us today. Hello to Silly Billy Simmons, great name. Uh, we got a number of questions. We got Caddy saying "Die Andy." No V-neck this time. No V-neck. I was going more for the Marlon Brando look of really short sleeves. I hope it works. So, hello, Nino. Loving the beard. Thank you, Nino. It's been a work in progress. Well, it's not been really a work in progress. I just didn't feel like shaving anymore. Going back to the old Andy of old times, before Roma Press was a channel, a YouTube channel, and you could see me on video. So I hope everybody's enjoying so far their summer. It's been for Roma. It's been quite strange, and I think a lot of people here will agree. And I think there is a lot of interest in today's live stream because it felt a bit like these times were beginning to feel a bit strange. Roma so far have signed Buba Sangare, who will likely join the Primavera before going to the first team with Daniele De Rossi. They signed Matthew Ryan on a free transfer after his experience at AZ Alkmaar came to an end. A 32-year-old goalkeeper, a veteran who will take Rui Patricio's place, and we splashed all of a sudden 23 million on Enzo Lefe from Rennes. So it's been weird. I will give you that. It's been weird. And the new policy of Roma seems to be patience, patience, patience. Ciao from Aberdeen. Of course, from Aberdeen. I have a question here. I am not very convinced by any of our signings, and I would like to say that we are weaker than last season. Do you honestly think that we can finish in top 8? My dear friend, we are the 25th of July. As you just said, we have 3 signings. The transfer window is still a long way away from its deadline day. You have plenty of clubs who are in the same position as Roma. Think about a team like Napoli. They got 2 signings. You got Milan, 0 signings so far. You got Inter, who signed Zielinski and Taremi on a free. You got Juve, who arguably have made the biggest leap forward, and yet they also struggle for signings. Why? Because, as always, as is the case for most Italian clubs, cash. Cash rules everything around me. And Italian clubs, without selling players, they cannot move. That's the same thing that applies to Roma. It applies to Inter. It applies to Juve, who must sell Matthias Soulé, must sell Dean Huijsen if they want to make Todibo happen, if they want to make Teun Koopmeiners happen. We'll get into the specifics of Roma's transfer window so far and what they want to achieve by the end of this window soon. I know there is obviously questions raised about where Roma will end up after the end of this summer, because, as you guys pointed out, 3 signings so far. We still don't have a replacement for Romelu Lukaku. Tammy Abraham. Now, that's a big talking point right there, because Tammy Abraham was at the center of several rumors this summer, with Premier League clubs reportedly interested in him, and Milan as well. Roma and Milan briefly had a dialogue for Abraham, who could have ended up at Milan because his agents have been shopping him around a little bit everywhere. Unfortunately, so far, these talks did not result in any single offer for Abraham. So that's a big question mark for Roma. It continues to be so. We got Joseph from England. We got oh, hi Andy. How are Roma actually getting a new starting striker like David Dovbyk or Sorloth without selling Abraham? If so, how? Yes, guys. Let me preface this. This summer, a lot of people say, where are you getting the money? Budget is one thing. For Roma, the most fundamental thing is the annual costs. The annual costs, which means how much a player weighs on the club's balance sheet. Now, if you go back to looking at the balance sheet for Roma for last season, you will see the likes of Leonardo Spinazzola being ranked super high. You will see Romelu Lukaku super high. Rui Patricio, all 3 players who are gone now. Roma obviously also did not renew the loan of Diego Llorente, Rasmus Christensen, Sardar Azmoun. They got rid of Belotti. They want to get rid of Tammy Abraham because Tammy Abraham, if you manage, that's the thing, if you manage to move Tammy Abraham this summer, you can make an extra investment that is important for Roma standards. Will Roma replace Romelu Lukaku with an important player? I believe they will. But if you were to also sell Abraham this summer, you would also be able to add another important player to the roster. So far, this has not been a possibility because, exactly, you have the Englishman still on your books. In order to not make a capital loss, Roma must sell Tammy Abraham for at least 16 million euros. So far, no team is willing to meet Roma's asking price of 30 million. So It's going to be a complicated summer. But first, let me go through all the comments with questions so that I can answer them in order, and we will be getting the show on board. Jeff from Bologna, wonderful, Jeff. That's great to hear. Thanks for doing this. Running to Calcetto, but I wanted to ask: does Atletico going after Dovbyk present an opportunity for Roma to restart conversations for Samu? By Samu, you mean Omorodion? I don't see that happening, just because Omorodion has a very high release clause, about 80 million. Atletico seem to be betting on him this season. I'm pretty sure their idea is to have him and Dovbyk be the main starting duo. Omorodion is coming off a good season at Alaves, 9 goals. Will he replace Morata in the starting lineup? Well, he's 20 years old. Let's see what Diego Simeone has for him in mind. But Atletico's intention this summer was always to keep him. No team came close to signing him. I think West Ham made a bid for him of about 35 million. And Atletico practically laughed it off. I do not think that Omorodion is an option for Roma. Let's see. Andy, thanks for the stream. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. If you guys like this live stream, could you please drop me a like on this video? If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so now, because this is the channel where you can get all your videos of the Roma Press podcast that I record with John twice a week. Well, now it's summer, the transfer window is on, so we usually do once a week. We will be back to the usual twice per week recording sessions as soon as the season starts in less than a month. I think Chelsea will outbid Roma for Omorodion, especially with Lukaku money. Let's see what the priority is. I think if there are names that are prohibitive for Roma, so far it's definitely Jonathan David, for example. I think not even given the Lille's asking price, because Jonathan David has a contract with Lille until next year. The problem with someone like Jonathan David is the commissions. If Jonathan David is still in France at this moment in time, it's only because his agents are asking for outrageous amounts of money. Money that Roma do not want to spend on commissions. It's a club policy right now. The policy for Roma this summer is not to overpay in terms of salary. You have to slash the wage bill, and that starts with Lukaku being gone, Spinazzola not being renewed, Chris Smalling hopefully gone by the end of the summer, Tammy Abraham on the way out. That's where you have to really save your wage money. And I just don't see Roma also paying commissions. Commissions for Roma right now, that's a big no-no. So players with agents who are asking for big commissions, that's a big no-no for Roma. We got Tom, never been more excited for a stream. Yeah, it's exciting times because Roma have picked up. Roma have picked up after a moment in time where people were sort of thinking, well, is Ghisolfi sleeping? Roma are patient, and they are not the only club that are patient this summer. Everybody seems to be treading waters very carefully. The latest rumors around Roma is that the club really sort of learned their lesson from the previous years, where some investments may have come off as rushed. Some signings may have come off as too good to be true, in the sense too early on, too quickly, for too much money, and what of it? We have Houssam Aouar, for example, one of the first players that Roma signed last year in June. He signed on a free, and he's gone this year for 12 million to Al Ittihad in Saudi. So that's the new company policy. Let's address the wingers. Zaleski gets sold. Costa gets loaned. Stefan El-Shaarawy, Dybala, Soulé, Baldanzi. Where does Baldanzi play with Soulé? Guys, I want to... I said this on the podcast. I'm trying not to repeat myself, so I'm just going to say this. Because there is a lot of this talk around Soulé, around Baldanzi, around Dybala. mainly that Roma are looking at basically three identical players. In my opinion, I look at it this way. For me, Dybala right now, he's entering his third year at Roma. He's a leader, clearly someone who has made an important decision to stay. He's rejected apparently an offer of 10 million a season from Saudi. He's made a commitment to Roma, despite this release clause in his contract, which will be valid 5 more days until the end of July. Dybala will act as a mentor in the Rossi system. That's clear. Dybala's contract expires next year, but he has an option to extend for an additional year if he fulfills 50% of all appearances. So Dybala acting as the mentor with two guys like Baldanzi and Soulé, who are both 21 years old. Now, think about that, 21 years old. You can, as a player, and especially as an attacker, you can do so much at that age. You can change your entire skill set, your entire game. Um, to me, these are players that are flexible. Someone like Baldanzi is the first one to admit that he still has so much more to offer. I think Baldanzi can be a scorer. Baldanzi can be one of the best creators in Serie A. He needs to be molded. He needs to be looked after. He needs to be taught. He needs to be inspired. That's what De Rossi and Dybala, I think, envision for them. As I said many times, you don't make a signing like Baldanzi in January, out of all months in January, if you don't believe him in the long term. The same thing applies with Matthias Soulé. Now, we can get into it right away. Matthias Soulé is almost a Roma player. It will be for about 30 million euros, including bonuses. It will be 26th fixed fee and then 4 million in bonuses. He will sign a contract until 2029. He will be making a little over 2 million euros. This will be a major signing for Roma. I do not recommend for people to go look at the list of the most expensive signings in the club's history, because they do not look good in hindsight. Obviously, you have the likes of Patrick Schick, you have the likes of Nzonzi. Not exciting names. Let's put it that way. Someone in our patron group chat said, if you want to see a good signing for a lot of money, you have to go all the way back to Batistuta, and that's quite a while ago. So, but Matthias Soulé, more importantly, is a player that fits Roma's project, fits Roma's credo at this point, which is we want players who want the club. And if there's been a name that has faded away over time, it's been the name of Federico Chiesa, who was supposedly very close to Roma as the Euros started. And then slowly but surely, it felt like Chiesa took too much time to respond to Roma's interest, did not meet Roma's interest with the kind of enthusiasm that the Giallorossi expected him to showcase. And as a result, Roma, in their conversations with Juventus, they shifted their focus on Matthias Soulé. Matthias Soulé is someone who's been pushing to move to Roma for the past month or so. This is a guy who wanted nothing to do with Premier League. He wants everything to do with Roma. He wants to be reunited with his friends, Dybala, Paredes. He wants to be coached by De Rossi. He wants to play for Roma. Call him crazy for rejecting Premier League. I actually think this is very wise of him at 21. With the kind of season that he had at Frosinone, good, not great, good. Perhaps the Premier League would have been a step too far. For Roma, this is a signing that showcases their belief in younger players and, as I said, players who want the club. Roma want to be selective about that. Clearly, with De Rossi at the helm, with Ghisolfi at the helm, this is what the club want to do. Is if they are working towards the future, they must have players who believe in a future with the club. Why did Roma not pursue Dean Huijsen? What did Dean Huijsen say during his entire spell with Roma. No matter how Roma treated him, Dean Huijsen kept saying in his interviews, well, I hope to go back to Juventus. That's the club that believed in me. You know where Dean Huijsen is going right now? He's going to Bournemouth to reunite with Thiago Pinto. So that's how much Juventus believed in Huijsen. That's what he gets. That's a player. That's the kind of player that Roma are not interested in this summer. For those of you who will ask, why did Roma not sign him for 18 million euros, which is what Bournemouth paid for him? The answer is because Juventus were demanding 30 million up until a few days ago. They got desperate because they need to sign Coop Miners from Atalanta. They need to sign Todibo from Nice. They need the money, and they gave way to Bournemouth's offer. I'm sure you'll talk about it later, but as a Canadian, I'm very excited about the idea of Jonathan David joining Roma. I would also be excited if the guy would take a little less money. And that's what I would be excited for. It would be great. He's a great talent. There was talk of him joining Milan. The problem persists. Those commissions, those wage requests, it's something that Roma right now do not feel like they can do. Perhaps later on, if Tammy Abraham leaves, that frees up a lot of space. Tammy Abraham is perhaps the most, if with the exception of Paulo Dybala, the most expensive player on the roster. And as I said before, Roma, to avoid making a capital loss, they have to sell him for at least 16 million. Right now, Roma are asking for 30. So far, no offers yet. Let's see. So I'm gonna just quickly. So we have Soulé on the way, because really it's a matter of details. Roma, between today and tomorrow, they will finalize this deal with Soulé being allowed to fly back to Italy from Juve's training camp in Germany. They will give him the green light soon, and he will be able to join Roma, undergo his medical, and get on with Roma's training camp before Roma take off for England in a few days' time. Then, obviously, after Mathias Soulé, we got another player who wanted nothing but Roma, and that player is Samuel Dahl. Obviously, a lesser profile, a player of 21 years of age, just like Soulé, a player who still plays in Sweden, a player who we don't know much about besides what can be found online, what can be read about him. Good defensively, good at going forward. Small in stature, but really powerful physique. The director of Djurgårdens, which is the club that hosts Samuel Dahl, compared him to Philipp Lahm in that kind of that kind of fullback that can do a bit of everything. No, I'm not gonna use that word, the jolly word. But Samuel Dahl will join Roma also soon. He's playing tonight in the Conference League for the Djurgårdens, and he is expected to fly to Rome tomorrow for a deal that should be around 4.5 million euros. Now, that's another player that was heavily linked with the Premier League. A lot of clubs in the Premier League were onto him. Djurgårdens were also pushing for him to join the Premier League instead, because they were offering more money than Roma. The player obviously said no. As we've seen, this deal went really fast because first Roma opened talks with him. They found an agreement almost right away with his agent, and then it was just a matter of giving Djurgårdens a convincing offer, perhaps not the best one of the lot, but still enough to guarantee the player's signing. That's also almost done. Let me just go through these comments. Hey, hi Andy, who would you prefer as a striker from the targets we are linked with? Guys, I think we would be, I think we have to also consider some names that perhaps we don't we're not too excited about. I actually think a guy like Sorloth could be a good throwback to the kind of player that Dzeko was for Roma. That's another player that Roma are looking at. Sorloth from Villarreal, release clause of 38 million euros. and Roma have already opened talks with Villarreal. You'll see, and this is what I'm trying to say here, because I can understand people are overwhelmed by the amount of names that there are. It seemed like for Roma, who are looking still for one number 9, you got about 10 names. You got Ajax's Broby, you got Jonathan David, you got Sorloth, you had, up until a few days ago, you had En Nasiri, you have still and Mateta from Crystal Palace. Now you have Dovbyk. That's already 6 names. It's overwhelming. But the truth about the transfer market is, it is really about inquiring, asking around, trying to get 2 deals going at the same time. I know a lot of people laugh at the headlines we make at Roma Press, inquiring FC and asking for information FC and this and that and IS, good relations or whatever. But it does work like that, in the sense that you have to understand that there is a lot of competition, that there is only a limited number of players that fulfill a certain criteria. There's a number of teams that look for those same criteria as you're bound to compete for the same players with other teams. The reason why Roma are in a position where they can go ahead and sign Matthias Soulé for 30 million euros from Juventus is because not many teams are looking at that kind of winger at this moment in time. The thing about the striker, such as Sorloth, such as Dovbyk, such as Jonathan David, is that numerous teams are looking at players like that, right? So you have, for example, Dovbyk right now. Roma are getting into an advantageous position because West Ham United, who are also in the race, they dropped out. They want to focus on John Duran from Aston Villa. That's their target. Atletico Madrid are the only one team that is looking at Dovbyk right at this moment in time. Perhaps in 2 days, we will be talking about some other team swooping in, taking Dovbyk out. That's it. End of story. The market is about opportunities. So this is my long way of saying, if you see reports saying Roma are talking to Dovbyk, Roma at the same time, they can talk to Sorloth. It can happen. It can happen that Roma carry on negotiations with Villarreal, because maybe Villarreal changed their mind. They're like, you know what? We don't need 38 million anymore. You can have him for 30. And then Roma closed the deal for Sorloth. And all of a sudden, you're like, well, we were talking to Dovbyk. What the hell happened? The reality is, you got to keep your options open. And that's why we have so many names out there. That's why right now we can be talking about the new right back, Marc Pubill from Almeria, who grew up at Levante, 21 years old. Again, seems like a theme, right? Pretty big guy, pretty tall guy. Good, very good season at Almeria. He's now playing for Spain at the Olympics. He seems to be the main target for Roma right about now. Why is that? Because Roma were interested in Assignon of Rennes, a guy who played for Burnley last season on loan. The problem is Aston Villa decided to focus on Assignon. So Roma felt that they need to compete for somebody else. They need to go out their way for someone else. And that's why today they are meeting for Marc Pubill of Almeria. His price tag is estimated at around 50 million. Bologna, Newcastle United, several clubs are interested in him. Good prospect. Could be putting himself on display right about now at the Paris Olympics. So that's always something we need to take into consideration. When Soulé is going to join, asks Tamas. Just on pure potential, I think Soulé is the second most exciting signing we got after Dybala. He can open new horizons in the attacking department. Soulé is the player with the most dribbles completed in Serie A last season. Now, if there is something that Roma missed a hell of a lot, it's someone like him, in the sense, someone who can beat, someone who can actually create space by himself, because too many times we've seen Paulo Dybala being the only player who knows what to do with the ball at his feet and an opponent in front of him. Too many times we've seen players slam the ball into the opponent and be unable to drive the action forward. Someone like Soulé is the creator. Someone like Soulé is the engine. So you would suddenly find yourself with one of the best dribblers in the league. Grow out the stash, Andy. Thank you. I'll try. Bumblebee Tunes. Can Baldanzi and Soulé play together? And which left winger will we go for? Let's see. I think those are things that Roma will take time with. Right now, the focus is on the striker and on the right back. And can Baldanzi and Soulé play together? Well, I do believe that they will have to at some point in time during the season. We have so many games to play this year; it's going to be crazy. Feel free feel free not to answer if it's a silly question, but on the verge of adopting Roma as my Italian club. Any recommendations for learning more about the history and culture of the club in English? Let's see. That's a good question, guys. You can answer Joseph on this. I would say that always to go and just roam around the internet, man. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube, also from Roma, from the official YouTube videos about that. You should check out definitely some books also, just not only about Roma but about Serie A. I think that would give about Serie A, say in the 80s, 90s. That's the stuff that you want to look out for. Because that was a great era for Italian football. That was a really good era for Roma, the 80s. You got so many legends back then. That's when everything happened. Andy, please say hi to Johnny Solano. I will for sure. Any news on the Bove front? I hope he stays. Now that's a good question, Tom, because we've seen so much stuff that has been said about Edoardo Bove. Edoardo Bove, obviously a player who had a really good 6 months under De Rossi last season. Then under Mourinho last season. Sorry, the moment De Rossi comes in, Bove's minutes go down. Almost feels like Bove was completely incompatible with what De Rossi was asking of him, and his agents, his agent Diego Tavano. I wouldn't say got pissed off, but definitely started looking for teams, and his agent is the one who is putting a lot of this stuff out there. There's a number of teams interested in Bove. We heard about Premier League interest. The latest one is Fulham. We had Everton mentioned in the conversation. We had who else? We had Fiorentina interested in him. With Bove, it's bizarre because I do feel like this is a player that Roma would have no issue getting rid of in case of a reasonable offer. But I was really surprised when Roma showed their new kit. They had Bove as one of the models for it. Now I know he's a good-looking dude, but that's not what Roma usually do. When they have a player model for the kit, they don't usually get rid of him. At least that's not been part of it. When they use them as testimonials, that's not what happens. They don't get rid of them. That's something else that has been sort of making me scratch my head to see Tammy Abraham there promoted like that. Tom, you and John's preaching of patience has been key for my mental health during this transfer window. Absolutely, Tom. And I think that's also the case for this whole transfer talk about Bove, for example. Don't lose your head about that. Because it's not like in these situations, it's never the club that is kicking a player out. Now, the club may feel one way. The club may feel Bove is not compatible with what De Rossi is trying to do. We want someone in his place who can fit better what the team, how the team is supposed to function next season. We can be better without him on the roster. And in case of a reasonable offer, they ship him off. But at this moment in time, Bove is the one who's pushing for a move away. In the sense, Bove is the one who wants playing time. Now, his agent is the one who's offering him around, but that's on the player's instructions. It's like Giovanni Di Lorenzo at Napoli, who first says, I want to leave Napoli. His agent starts shopping him around Italy, around Spain, holds talks with Atletico, with Juve, with Inter, whatever. But that's not, the agent doesn't do anything that the player doesn't know about. The agent takes care of the player's interests. The agent responds to what the player wants. So in this case, Bove wants more playing time. Will he get it at Roma? That's a good question for next season. I still don't know, because Bove in the latest friendly with Košice was captain. So obviously it doesn't mean much. It still means something. Question about Roma Press. Ooh. Since the season ended, I've tracked all the players mentioned in the transfer rumors. The count is over 130 players right now. Is it worth to publish all of the rumors? Good question. And I understand. Again, I understand, because it can be frustrating. I'm on the receiving end of it as well. I mean, I'm the one who has to read through countless reports, Italian media. I wake up every morning at 6 o'clock, get my coffee ready. I write a bit because I'm working on a book. I'm trying to focus before this overwhelming amount of articles appears out of nowhere. And then I prepare myself, because usually at 7 o'clock in the morning, every day, weekends included, there's the morning press. And the morning press means are a flood of articles that are mentioning name upon name upon name. What Roma Press provides is English speaking content for English speaking Roma fans all over the world. Yes. So this is the website, this is the podcast for fans who want to be tuned in, who want to know about Roma. They want to know what's going on. They want to know about transfers. They want to know about interviews. They want to know about what's going on at Trigoria. They want to know about the history of the club. They want to know about everything about Roma. Who am I to filter that through the lens of someone who, say, is in Australia, in Malaysia? We got fans in New Mexico, we got fans in Indiana. Who am I to judge what people find interesting? And I always give credit in the stories. I always point out who's reporting it. If you got a lot of names, very often it's also because Roma are looking at a lot of names. A club is always tracking players. I know it's funny to say monitoring, tracking, this stuff and that. That's how the transfer market works. Teams have their eyes peeled. Teams have networks of people who watch players constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then add to that, the summer is the moment where everyone wants to make some money. So you got intermediaries, you got agents, you get everybody approaching the club, talking to the media. So I understand it's a lot of names. It's unfortunate. That's the reality we live in since the rise of social media. Agents message journalists and they tell them, listen, can you mention this guy for me? That's what happens. And people find that interesting. I don't want to gatekeep. That's not what I'm supposed to do. If something's bullshit, sure, then I'll think twice about it. Andy in the house with the beard. I'm digging it. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. I don't like Pubill. He's 6'3". I don't know what that means, but I know that in centimeters, that's 190. That's 191 centimeters, because that's how tall he is. Plotty right back, just like Christensen. Oh, well, if you look at what he's done for Almeria, that's have a lot more than Christensen. Let's see. Soulé, sorry, there's a lot of comments. Soulé is also an investment. You can sell him for profit in the future if a big offer is coming for him. Chiesa is a lost cause in terms of investment, which is important for the owners. Now, let's wait with this Chiesa abuse, because Chiesa has been excluded from Juve's training camp so far. Chiesa right now is in Turin. Juventus are in Germany. Chiesa is not compatible with Thiago Motta's plans. Chiesa has been told to leave right before the Euros. His agent met with Juventus. They told him, your client has to leave. So far, there's nothing on the table except for Roma for Chiesa. And he's asked for time because he hopes to play in the Champions League. He will also hope to attract some interest from the Premier League, and just wanted more. He wanted more, but sometimes that's what happens in the summer. You have to wait around and see who stays, and let's see if that doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, that perhaps Roma are willing to give him a second chance. I like the fact that the club want to pursue players who are 100% convinced of it. That will never apply to everybody. You can have a class player like Chiesa, who, mind you, is 26 years old. He's suffered serious knee injuries. He's suffered a lot of injuries in recent months. He's been inconsistent in terms of performances. He's had a terrible Euro. He's coming off a really bad season with Juventus. So um, there is a lot of points against that signing. I still do think that in the good context he could thrive, because let's remember Max Allegri had him playing as a fullback. I'm just saying. So let's wait, because Roma may also decide to just wait for him to just change his mind, because he's bound to reconsider. If Juventus are like, well, then you're gonna sit for a year and let's see what happens, because that's the only prospect. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and Juventus can very comfortably say, we're just gonna let you sit and rot on the bench. Dahl reminds me of Spinazzola. Amazing, Vincent. Then I prefer still the comparison to Philip Lam. That's more comforting. Buy high, sell low, as Roma. Well, Matt, but they just sold Houssem Aouar for 12 million euros to Al Ittihad after signing him on a free transfer. Tammy Abraham not going for 20 million is shocking. Matt says, but Tammy's whole decline is due to that terrible knee injury. Tammy was ready to get packing for 45 million euros last season, right before that ACL got him in the final game of the season. So let's hold on, because Roma have been actually very productive on the outgoing transfers, as in they know how important it is to make money. Those 12 million for Houssem Aouar are huge. Same thing for Andrea Belotti going to Como for 5 million. That's very important for Roma. It would be also very important to get Rick Karsdorp off the books. 7 years, guys. 7 years for Karsdorp at Roma. That's incredible. Mazin, our good friend Mazin. Let me get just some water. And let's continue this. Hi, Mazin. I hope all is good. If Roma and Juve don't find buyers for Tammy and Chiesa, do you think they may do a swap? There's been talk about Tammy to Juve as a backup to Vlahovic. I honestly don't see it. I don't know. I think that would be like the desperation swap. And I honestly think that Tammy is still worth less than Chiesa, even after that terrible Euros display for Chiesa. We could get. What do you say about the left winger position? We could get Lauriente from Sassuolo for 12 million fee, 1.5 million wage. Last season wasn't as greatest, but he would be a good depth player. Let's see. Lauriente has been linked with Lazio mostly. Right now, I think Sassuolo are still scrambling. Domenico Berardi was offered to Roma. Speaking of ghosts from the past, Domenico Berardi, who's desperate to move away from Serie B after Sassuolo's relegation. Now, that's a funny thing to see Domenico Berardi be mentioned in 2024. He's coming off a really terrible injury. I don't think he's going to be any fitter in September. So he's been offered to a lot of clubs in the Serie A, including Inter, including Roma, including Napoli. That's funny. Kumbulla, third center back next year. Kumbulla, now that's another good story, because Kumbulla, obviously, as we know, was bought for a relatively big fee, although most of it was in several installments with a lot of bonuses involved. Kumbulla, pretty bad, if not disastrous, loan at Sassuolo, comes back to Roma. Nothing on the table for him. Just like with Eldor Shomurodov, those are players that Roma will need time to get rid of. But I do think that if there is one player that may surprise everybody and may end up staying, it is Kumbulla. I do think De Rossi may be considering that, also because Roma will be looking around, and I think they will be prioritizing other signings instead. For sure, another center back will be on the way. That's guaranteed. But I do think we have to start looking at Kumbula as a potential stay for next season. Is it okay to ask what is the book you're working on, and is it related to football? Thomas, no, not at all. Not related to football. I'm working on a novel, but it's nothing. There's no football involved in the novel. It would be a disaster. I mean, perhaps it's already a disaster, but I don't know about it. But it would be a disaster if football was involved. It's a novel. It's kind of like a satire about a modern day Robinson Crusoe. Uh, I want to read as much as I can about Roma, even rumors in English. That's very nice to hear. What we're trying to do at Roma Press, really, it's Roma Press was found. I'm just going to give some background before I continue the show. Roma Press was founded by John a long time ago, when there was really no major website that enabled content in English for English speaking Roma fans. So everything that came out of Roma, radio, TV, news, website, everything, forums, everything was in Italian. So Roma Press established itself like that. And also John, when he had more time and less kids, he used to provide consistently a lot of exclusive articles. That's what gained traction. John obviously has the journalist accreditation in Italy. He's a member of the Journalists Guild, whatever it is, in Italy. He attended press conferences at Trigoria when he had the time, when he lived in Italy. So and then when I joined to write for the website, it slowly started to pick up, to grow. That's when Roma started to gain much more traction outside of Italy as well. So we want to make information, news, interviews, stuff that you find usually in Italian newspapers or in Italian news portals or any media from all over the world that talks about Roma. We want to make that accessible to everybody. And so we want the website, we want this podcast, we want this channel to be the place where you can find the stuff that you're looking for. And perhaps you're not interested in the top 5 stories of the day, but perhaps you look through the website and there is a story from yesterday morning that you are interested in, or perhaps you find an interview that you are looking for, and you want to see what Fabio Capello has to say in 2024. Whatever it is, we're there for you. Thoughts on the stadium news that dropped yesterday? Now, that's a big thing that I wanted to also touch upon. Caution, guys. Caution is the word. Because there is a lot of there's a lot riding on this stadium thing. The Friedkins, when they moved in and took over Roma in 2020, the stadium was the main focus. The stadium is everything, in the sense that the stadium is the brand. The stadium means history. The stadium means independence. The stadium is essential to the Roma of the future. You cannot continue to play in the Olimpico. You cannot hope to grow if you remain bound to the chains that are instilled upon you by the Italian system. You cannot. And that's what a lot of clubs are trying to do. Milan are trying to build themselves a new stadium. Lazio are trying to build themselves a new stadium. Fiorentina are trying to build themselves a new stadium. And it's tough. It's tough. Yesterday was an important step forward, because Roma, with Roberto Gualtieri, who is the mayor of Rome, they were there to present this new design, agreed on the area, agreed on the establishments in the area. They specified more or less when they would like construction works to begin. They specified the costs of it, almost 1 billion euros. 55,000 people will be able to attend Roma games there. There's one of the biggest curva in Europe. That's the plan. Now, that's the plan. In theory, that's what Roma want to do in order to compete, because that's where the money is. If you guys want to see Roma competing with the likes of I'm not even gonna mention the big names, but I'm just saying, if you want to see Roma compete beyond, say, Conference League, if you want to see a club that is healthy in the long term, you got to have the money, and a stadium like the one the Friedkins are trying to get done is the way to go. A lot can happen between now and next year. I'm always worried in this case that of Italian politics. I'm terrified, terrified in the sense because there you never know who to trust, and everything can change just like that. Roberto Gualtieri, first of all, is a huge Roma fan. Okay, he's very enthusiastic about this. But Roberto Gualtieri has a mandate, and Roberto Gualtieri can also be voted out of office. Roberto Gualtieri can be replaced by someone who then comes in and says, "No, we're changing everything," because that's what happened when Marino, the former mayor, was replaced by obviously Virginia Raggi, who put an end to Stadio della Roma. Virginia Raggi just dismissed it completely. Virginia Raggi is the reason why Rome doesn't have the Olympics this time around. So a lot of things can happen. A lot of people can get in the way of something like this. It's exciting. It's a great project to see. It's nice to make it also exactly so vivid in the minds of fans, because listen, we all had the images of the former Stadio della Roma in our minds. This is not it. This is bigger, brighter, more vivid, more and exciting. As of right now, this is palpable, but that doesn't mean it will be palpable in a year from now. Although it is essential, and it is essential also for the Friedkins to stay around. The Friedkins will not stay around, will not be pumping money into the club's books if the stadium doesn't get done. Let's see. Chasing top four season. Let's go. Yes, guys. If there is one thing that we have to focus on right now, it's not only the long term, but also this upcoming season, which is very important because yes, we are entering our the last time we played the Champions League was against Porto. It was I believe it was March 2019. So over 5 years. That's over 5 years since we've seen this team play in a Champions League match. 6 years since we actually qualified for Champions League. So it's too long for a club like Roma. It's too long in this situation. It's too much time. We have to take it step by step, guys. That's why I also say patience, patience, patience. Don't let the market get to you. Wait and trust in a process. I know that's what Philadelphia 76ers fans used to say, trust the process, but I really do believe in this case, as always, if you have new executives coming in, new coach, Roma have changed their entire team of management team. I mean, they've appointed so many new names that we don't even know about. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now at Trigoria, where Roma will have their offices, because they will eliminate their offices in the city center. They will all move to Trigoria. We have to give time, and we have to have patience, because that's how projects are built. It's not done in a day. The saying about Rome. What's the update on Dovbyk? Dovbyk is being approached by Roma and is being approached by Atletico Madrid, and Atletico Madrid have an agreement in general with Girona, who will release him for 40 million euros, but they are still missing an agreement with the player's agents. So Roma are trying to do that. They are trying to find a way to have Dovbyk turn around and say, you know what, I want Roma right now. I want to join the Giallorossi instead. We'll see. I think these are things that will evolve. Things will pick up right now. There is a lot of things happening at the same time. Roma continue their conversations with Sorloth. They are trying to get Soulé over the line and in the capital by the weekend. They will have Dahl by tomorrow evening for sure in the capital as well. They're working also on the signing of a new right back. They want to add a new center back. So the club is active. The fact that you don't see much happening in terms of offers or players actually signing on the dotted line, that's because you're taking time, you're making wise decisions, or at least hopefully you're making wise decisions. You don't want to rush in. Oh wow, first live stream in a while. Ciao Andy. Hi, hello Ju, good to see you. Thank you for being here with us. Ciao, Andy. Adam, do you have any worries about how much change the squad is going through this season? How long it'll take to adapt and find the winning formula on the field? I actually don't see that there is that much changing. I mean, people. I think the world revolution means one thing. In this case, we got rid of Hussein War, Renato Sanchez, Leonardo Spinazzola, Rui Patricio, Lukaku. Now, Lukaku may be the most important one. We got rid of Diego Llorente. We got rid of Rasmus Christensen. Arguably, we kept the core. What matters is Miles Viar, Evan Dika, Gianluca Mancini, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Paulo Dybala, and the like. That's the most important thing. I do not even think that there has been so much change. It will all depend on the upcoming signings. Now that will be interesting. But what are we talking about? Because the change of the squad was necessary. I think we all agree on that. Last season, when we watched this team perform through so many ups and downs, it was horrible to see this team be so inconsistent. Those opening 6 months were towards a new style of play under De Rossi, towards new dynamics, towards new players on the pitch, will be a bad thing, or will come more difficult Roma's way, because what I saw last season at the start of the campaign was atrocious. As in, the Roma that I saw on the pitch did not look like a Roma that had been playing mostly together for 3 years. So to start, and also, guys, I'm just saying, to start the season with Miles Viar in goal. Now think about it. I'm just saying, even focus on the simple pleasures in life. Miles Viar in goal instead of Rui Patricio. The failed takeover of Everton by the Friedkins means something, or we shouldn't read anything into it, and they are 100% committed to the Roma project. Tamas, the failed takeover of the Friedkins of Everton means only that they were faced with such tragic debt on the part of Everton. Everton took out a whole bunch of money from 7 partners, and Friedkins just decided not to go with it. They're still creditors. So if you read Everton's statement from a few days ago, the Friedkins are still in the picture. They're just not going to be the owners of the club. They're still involved with Everton, but they do not want to take the risks of taking on such an overwhelming amount of money that Everton owed around the world to a private company in Miami. Now that sounds like something from Scarface. I know someone asked this already, but was there a serious stadio breakthrough? Yes, we've got a new project underway. We're going to carry out, obviously now there's this whole phase of carrying out the so-called surveys of the area and just trying to make sure that everything's okay. And then a whole bunch of stuff happens, and then hopefully by 2025 that's when the gong is supposed to ring out to announce the start of the construction, with the idea of delivering the stadium by the club's centenary in 2027. Am I wrong in thinking we had no money? Where is it coming from to go for these players? No. The budget was one thing. I said it. The budget is one thing. Now you can have 30 million to start the budget with, right? But then you have player sales. You have ways to get that money. The thing about what we are seeing right now is the fact that Roma got rid of a lot of expensive players. Spinazzola weighed on the books to such an extent that you'd be able to afford 2 players in his place. That's what I mean. So the annual costs of some of the players that dropped out, that were dropped by Roma, have given Roma a lot of leeway. Budget, that's entirely different. Also, when you're dealing, for example, in Serie A, you never have to have cash up front. Mattias Soulé, for example, when Italian clubs deal with each other, it's always sort of a promise to pay It's always in installments, obviously. In Solefe, 23 million euros. That's in 3 installments. For Roma, budget was never a problem. For Roma, the problem is, as always, the books. And the books say that Chris Smalling, Tammy Abraham, and Rick Karsdorp have to leave before the end of the summer. If you want to really have a great transfer window this year, you have to have Abraham, Smalling, and Karsdorp off your books. That's when it will go down, guys. I hope that this live stream provided a pretty full overview of what's coming. And I just want to mention, don't don't live this don't live the transfer window too much, as in don't feel it too much. Don't let it rule your day. It's very easy to get overwhelmed by these names. It's normal. It happens every year. I remember in 2022, when Dybala was in talks with Roma, I was walking around. I was on holiday in Valencia, walking around with my phone, visiting the city, but my face was in the phone. I was basically writing 3 4 articles about Dybala every hour. There seemed to be constant updates about a deal for one single player. So that's the reality of the transfer window, and you just have to enjoy your holiday, enjoy your summer, whatever it is you're doing. Focus on that. Roma have less than 1 month to go until the start of the season. We will be back with John to record the next episode on Sunday. The episode will be released on Monday. If you want to have early access to the podcast, if you want to have access to extra episodes where John gives exclusive episodes about stuff that happens behind the scenes, if you want to be a patron in our patron group chat on WhatsApp, you can always subscribe to our patron by going to patreon.com/Roma Press. Any support means the world to us because it really helps us going. It's just me and John. This is a two-man team, guys, and we're trying to give everybody a bit of accessibility and fun to things that are Roma related, which is not necessarily too easy given the team that we all decided to root for on some doom day. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this live stream. It really means the world to see everybody tuning in. Let's keep our fingers crossed for a good transfer window for Roma, and we'll be back soon here in no time at all. Until then, guys, Forza Roma as always. Ciao.